Arabella lived upon a farm beside a stream of water. Of course, it wasn't Arabella's fault, but she was a farmer's daughter. Now, Arabella used to milk the cows and feed the pigs and chickens. And if any little thing went wrong, why, she didn't raise the dickens. Because Arabella didn't mind. Arabella didn't care. Now, Arabella wasn't the sort of a girl that would rave and tear her hair. Now, the only time she ever said no was when she didn't hear what the man said. But she didn't give a darn, because Arabella was so simple, and she lived down on a farm. Now, Arabella took a trip to go into the city. Of course, it wasn't Arabella's fault, but she was extremely pretty. And just as she reached the tunnel, she was thinking of home and sister, when the chap in front of her leaned over the seat and kissed her. But Arabella didn't mind. Arabella didn't care. Now, Arabella wasn't the sort of a girl that would rave and tear her hair. Now, just as the chap leaned over the seat, she took his watch and charm, and Arabella was so simple, and she lived down on a farm. Now, Arabella took a motor trip along a road so pretty. They motored to a country inn, a long ways from the city, when suddenly the car broke down, and say, it was a sight. But the chap turned red and bashfully said, I guess we'll have to stay here all night. But Arabella didn't mind. Arabella didn't care. Now, Arabella wasn't the sort of a girl that would rave and tear her hair. Now, the chap introduced her as his sister to save her from all harm. Arabella has an income now. She should worry about the farm. And Arabella was so simple, and she lived down on a farm. Now, once there was a traveling man, a bold, bad traveling man. I was stopping in a one-horse town. Now, he was feeling mighty blue, and I suppose you would have too. So he phoned a stable and said, please send a horse right down. Then he drove out in the country, and in a pasture fair, he saw a maiden milking on a stool. So he beckoned her and asked her for a drink. Well, she said, I'll go ask my ma. And she left him sitting there just like a fool. Mother, she said, dear mother, there's a traveling man out here, and he's asked me for a glass of milk. So what shall I do, my dear? Well, if he's a traveling man, she said, you know what you should do. Come right in the house this minute, and you bring that cow in too. Now, once said the little man, and his rod and line he took, and he said, I'm going a-fishing in the neighboring brook. And at a chance, a little maiden was walking out that day, and so they met in the usual way. Then he sat down beside her, and an hour or two went by, but still on that grassy brink his rod and line did lie. I thought she shyly whispered that you'd be fishing all the day, and he was, in the usual way. Then he gravely took his rod in hand and threw the line about, but the fish perceived distinctly that he was not looking out. And he said, sweetheart, I love you, but she said she couldn't stay, but she did, in the usual way. And day by day beside the stream they wandered to and fro, and day by day the fishes swam securely down below. So this little story ended, as such little stories may. Very much in the usual way. Well, 2 years have passed since their wonderful wedding day, and you're wondering if he still loves her in the usual way. Does he love her? Oh, well, I should say. For this is what she sings around the house each day. Beulah. And now my story's ended, for there's nothing more to say, except that they're growing older in the usual way. And as they sit in the summer, in the cool evening breeze, they vow they will love each other always, just like